What's going on, y'all? This is John Alsace with Facemask Fantasy. We got new up-to-date fantasy content coming your way every day on this channel, so if you have not subscribed already, then please hit that button. But before we get into our main topic for today, my co-host Nick Payne put in a ton of work to give you guys a free 2021 Redraft draft kit available on our website, which can be found at facemaskpod.com. It's a great piece of content, something that other analysts might be charging you for, but we're giving it to you for free. So without further ado, let's get into some fantasy talk. And today we got some news that just came out this morning. I almost woke up to the news. Sony Michel was traded to the LA Rams. According to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, the Rams traded a 5th and 6th round pick to the Patriots. But if LA gets a 4th round compensatory pick in 2022, that pick will be traded to the New England Patriots, and the Rams will be able to get to keep their 5th and 6th rounders. So convoluted from that standpoint. This is obviously on the back of the Cam Akers injury, and more recently, Henderson catching a thumb injury and Raymond Calais being done for the season. And we are here to break down what this means for your fantasy team. Now, just looking at the Patriots side to start off, this means that Damien Harris is the legit, unquestioned RB1 for this team. Last year, looking at the team snap breakdown, Rex Burkhead led the pack with 37.62% of snaps in 10 games. James White had 30.91 in 14 games. Damien Harris surprisingly only had 27.41% of team offensive snaps through 10 games. And Sony Michel had 8.53% of team snaps in 9. I thought he had more. JJ Taylor bringing up the rear, he only had 3.5% of offensive team snaps for the Patriots last season as a rookie. Now I'm leaving out Brandon Bolden because he's a special teamer, and I believe he's only an RB in name, not function. Now this is the definition of a committee, but how much does that change this year with the departure of Rex Burkhead and Sony Michel and the addition of Ramondre Stevenson? Now Damien Harris actually only led the team in snaps in 3 out of the 10 games in which he played. That's a surprising stat to me, but with this current group of Harris, White, Taylor, and Stevenson, I expect that to change. Now getting into this current group, I'm going to start off with Ramondre Stevenson because a coaching comments just came out from the running backs coach for the Patriots, in which he said, and I quote, "What do I like about him? He's here. I like that he's here. Other than that, everything's got to improve. That's what we have to get done. He's got a lot to learn. He's talented. We'll see what he can do in the games, but right now he's got a lot to learn. A lot to learn." That's an exact quote. He repeated "a lot to learn" twice. So we know that this team likes to redshirt running backs, but with the Ramondre Stevenson's showings that he's put on tape in the preseason thus far, I think he has earned some playing time year one. But I also think JJ Taylor has earned more than the 3.5% of offensive snaps that he was getting last year. I believe he's the eventual James White replacement after this season. But in light of Ramondre Stevenson maybe redshirting half the year, if not all of it, like Damien Harris was, and in light of, I believe, JJ Taylor taking on more of James White's role, here's what I expect from this running back room in 2021. Damien Harris, again, RB1 on this team, and I believe he'll get just under 40% of snaps, which is more than any running back got for this team last season. He'll get most of the rushing work on 1st and 2nd down, but all the receiving work is going to go to other backs in White and Taylor. And as long as Cam Newton is the quarterback, a lot of the goal line work is going to be eaten up by Cam Newton. But once McCorkle Jones starts, once McCorkle Jones starts, Damien Harris has the goal line all to himself. That is, until Stevenson gets up to speed enough to take that away from him too. So while Damien Harris is the RB1 on this team, it's not the typical RB1 role. He's not going to get the passing down work. And it looks like with the Stevenson pick and how Stevenson's been doing, I don't think they're going to be giving Damien Harris a whole lot of goal line work either. But it is a good sign they want to move away from Michel enough to give more work to the younger guys in the room, sans James White. So this is a vote of confidence for Damien Harris. Damien Harris is a rock solid mid to low tier running back 2 with weekly high end RB2 and even low end RB1 upside if Mac Jones were to start. In Dynasty, this move clears up the waters quite a bit, Harris is the RB1 here moving forward, and in the future, he won't have to contend with Cam Newton's goal line vulturing, which would have freed up 13 touchdowns on the ground last season for someone who only got 2 in Harris, so the arrow is definitely pointing up for him. James White is who he's been the past few seasons. I believe PPR, half PPR value only, holds RB3 value, but at an RB5 cost. He's not somebody that I'm looking for at all in Dynasty because he's up there in age, and honestly, I think he's gone from this team next year. But in season-long leagues where players get rewarded for receiving production, I believe he still does have value in this season. JJ Taylor, I believe, will be fantasy relevant next year. So again, if you're in a Dynasty league, now's the time to stash a guy like JJ Taylor. Again, I think he takes White's role as soon as next season, but he's not fantasy relevant in season-long leagues because I don't believe he's going to see markedly more work than the 8.5% of offensive snaps that he got to see last season. And Stevenson, he will eventually be the goal line back, but that's once he gets up to speed in this offense and the coaches gain enough confidence in him to give him significant playing time. He's got the burst, he's got the speed, he's got the strength to him. I wouldn't be surprised if by next year, he's earned himself a definitive role in this offense as the Sony Michel heir. Definitely a buy in Dynasty, and you may want to wait until the season to throw out an offer because I do believe he redshirts at least the first few games, so you might be able to pounce on an impatient owner at the time. In season long, I'm really only interested in this backfield in Harris for right now, and to a lesser extent White, but again, I'm not really interested in James White unless I can get him super late at a value. Now, if Damian Harris were to go down, Ramondre Stevenson would be the lead 1-2 down back here, so he does have handcuff value in season-long leagues. And Taylor, while he's a coaching staff favorite, I still believe he's a year out from redraft consideration. For Dynasty, I like everybody in this room except for James White. Now for the Rams, this is basically a 1-year rental for the Rams, so I'm only approaching the Rams side of the deal from a redraft season-long perspective, as I don't believe he will be on the team next season. I believe they will let him go to free agency, but this is the room as it looks right now. Darrell Henderson, who's dealing with a broken thumb, then 2021 7th rounder Jake Funk, 2020 undrafted free agent Xavier Jones, 2021 undrafted free agent Otis Anderson, and now Sony Michel. Sony should step in from day one and be the RB1 for this team as long as Henderson is out with that thumb injury, and then the RB2 for this team once Henderson is back. And I believe he will be back in short order. This is just some insurance. And I believe Xavier Jones and Jake Funk will be bringing up the rear as the 3rd and 4th backs in this rotation. And I believe that Otis Anderson has been relegated to the kick returner, punt returner job. So as far as fantasy value, this kills the fantasy value I was projecting for Xavier Jones and or Jake Funk. I was high on one of these guys becoming fantasy relevant this year in light of the Cam Akers injury because I wasn't of the impression that Darrell Henderson could carry a full workload. I do think that 2 backs can coexist in this offense, but not 3. And Sony was actually productive last season despite the narrative that he's a bad back. He actually had a yards per carry above 5. And while I believe that Henderson will still be the lead dog here, he now has a legit option to spell him in Sony Michel and a legit backup in case of injury. Now Henderson, he's still a rock solid RB2 with high-end RB2 upside, maybe even have some RB1 weeks, but I do believe this move takes him out of the RB1 conversation, as I believe this move is one to keep Henderson fresh and not just one of these moves where we need more bodies in our room right now because we keep getting injuries type deal. I think this is a move to keep him fresh through the full season. Now, Sony is a handcuff to a huge workload, one that would put him in line for high-end RB2 work if he were to be put into that position due to injury ahead of him. But as far as his standalone value, it changes some from the Pats to the Rams, but I think his ceiling is around RB30 if he has to play behind Henderson all season. I'm looking at guys like Gus Edwards and Lat Murray for comparisons as players who are rock-solid backups with some starter traits who just don't get enough work to be more than an RB3, RB4 unless injury strikes. So Henderson, just to wrap up, still a rock-solid RB2 with high-end RB2 upside, may give you RB1 weeks, but will not be an RB1 by season's end. Sony's going to be an RB3, RB4 type, maybe give you some RB2 weeks when he sneaks a touchdown in there, but he does carry some handcuff value. And if he were to be the lead back for this team in case of a Henderson injury, I believe he would be a rock-solid RB2. Jones and Funk, this is where it hurts, relegated to RB5 value. Neither are people I'm looking to roster in season-long leagues. and Otis Anderson just a special teamer. So what do you guys think about this Sony Michel trade? Are you buying Sony Michel? Are you buying anybody from the Patriots in light of this move? And are you as down on Xavier Jones and Jake Funk's new projected roles as I am? Put your thoughts in the comment section below. My name is John Alsace, and this is Facemask Fantasy. We bring you new up-to-date fantasy content every day right here on this channel, so if you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening and have a great day.